Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Forziat. Let me introduce myself. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is take the donut, which is another way to say carpe diem. So I'm all about going after opportunities and going after things you want in life. And one of the things that I sometimes do is things I call take the donut challenges. I'll challenge myself to do something that I want to do and I'll make it official and make some videos about it. In the case of movies and TV, I do love movies and TV. So in the case of that, I have done, some podcasts about TV shows. I've done some video series about movies. And in this particular case, I'm going to do a little bit of a smaller challenge in terms of duration of videos. I'm just doing this one video, but I really wanted to talk about the show Alice in Borderland, which is more so a take the donut challenge for the world because I feel like more people need to watch this show. And so I'm going to make a case for why they should. Now, if you like the show Squid Game, and it seems like everybody does. It's a very popular show. A lot of people have watched it. And my question for you, if you have seen Squid Game and you haven't seen Alice in Borderland, I want to know why. Go look for it. So let's just put a couple differences out there from the top here. So Alice in Borderland and Squid Game. Alice in Borderland is a Japanese show. Squid Game is a Korean show. Alice in Borderland is based on a manga series, manga. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. That comes from an originator named Haru Aso, and it just came out with its third season. And somehow this show doesn't seem to have picked up the speed that Squid Game has, even though they're both shows that are very much about people playing games where they die and life and death decisions getting made. Both shows are based on that. Both shows have a certain level. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of death. And there's a lot of difficult decision making and all of that. And I'm about to make a case for why everybody should watch Alice in Borderland who likes a show like Squid Game. Look, it's neither show is for everybody on the planet. That I can acknowledge. If you're not into seeing a lot of just like a huge amount of people dying, and having it presented as a game, then neither of these shows is for you. But if you like the idea of that, if you like horror movies like I do, if you like things that are really high stakes like that, if you like high action, both shows could be for you. If you like Squid Game, here's why you should be watching Alice in Borderland. I'm going to give you 7 reasons that I came up with, but I bet there's a lot more. And all of you Alice in Borderland fans out there, especially those who speak English and don't have a lot of content out there based on this show that's for you, please jump into the comments and share the things that you like about it. Let's try to be fairly spoiler free because we want to get some people to this show to see the whole show. So first of all, the first thing that I have to mention, and this is probably a theme that'll come up in some of my other favorite things about the show, is it's got really cool characters. And in a lot of cases, for me, I'm very used to American media, maybe some British, maybe some Australian media. I don't see characters like this very often day to day. So it's pretty cool for me to see. My favorite characters are, you're going to get Chisha here. You're seeing right where my finger is. We're going to get Aguni here. There's a character that I really like that isn't pictured here, Kuma. And that's from second season. I'm trying not to spoil anything too much, but there's so many cool characters. I would say more often than not, I tend to gravitate towards strong women characters, and there are plenty of those in this show, and yet those don't seem to be my favorite characters for this show, which I think is kind of cool that this show presented such interesting, complex characters all across the board. I'm hiding our leads here, but we've got a couple really important characters up front that I didn't mention up the top here, Arisu and Usagi. And you can just by looking at this, you can see that every character has a story. Every character gets a story that feels developed. There's maybe only 1 or 2 characters in the whole show that I've seen so far that get a lot of screen time that I don't feel like are super well developed. This show somehow This brings me into my second favorite point here, or point number two. This show has a really good balance. It has to do a lot of things. You have to feel really invested in the characters, so it needs to give you a lot of time with the characters and their stories and what's happening for them and what happened for them before. It's also got to spend a lot of time on life or death games. That's really the point of the show, or at least a point of the show. But it also has a fair amount of time of significant fight scenes because some of these characters are conflicting, and sometimes that happens within a game, but sometimes it happens outside of a game. And we get really good fight scenes that sometimes have nothing to do with the specific games that are presented to them. And the fight scenes are really cool. This show is trying to do a whole bunch of different things. And I'm even going to add another element in later. And somehow I feel like it does all of them in a pretty balanced way, which is why when I watch this show, I feel just really compelled by it because it doesn't leave any one piece behind. It gives action, but it also makes you care about the people. And this brings me to point number three. There are a lot of really interesting lines and discussion points that are thrown out there in this show as lines of dialogue and just as the plot as a whole. One of the lines that is mentioned, and this it was said in Japanese, so this is a very rough translation, but it's something like, "For a hero to exist, tragedy is needed." And boy, does that ring true in this show. Pretty much every character, you get a lot of their story. Even if it's condensed, you still feel like you got a lot of their story. You feel like they reach this moment where they need to overcome something. It could be a person, it could be a situation in their life, it could be those two things coming to a head at the same time. They could pretty much everybody deals with really difficult situations, and because they spend so much time giving us an insight into these characters, you end up feeling really invested in them. Everybody gets big moments. And I have to say, I watched the first season of Squid Game and wasn't really that compelled to watch more, to be honest. I haven't rewatched it. I felt like I saw what I needed to see. This show, while trying to do some similar things, makes me feel really invested in these characters. So when they come to these moments where tragedy makes the hero, you feel it. You feel it really, really strong. And again, it's not just from our leads, it's from everybody. There's a really cool fight, and I don't want to give things away, but there's a really cool moment between characters like Quina and the last boss, where these two characters, maybe you hadn't gotten a lot of them beforehand, but they roll in backstory and fight scene together in a way that suddenly adds more complexity to what you're seeing on screen. Having said that, we also want to see the other side of things. Let's look at our leads here. We've got Arisu and Usagi. We got a sweet love story between them. So that's going to be number four for me. If you like, look, it's kind of an innocent love story. It's kind of a conservatively presented love story, and it's just so sweet. There's a lot of like sort of longing, and there's a lot of separation and coming together for all of the characters. And it also happens for Arisu and Usagi. A lot of the time when you hear those names, they're being bellowed into a great distance. And I quite like the chemistry of these two actors together. So, they do such a great job with it. This brings me to number five. Well, it doesn't really bring me to number five, but I'm going to go there anyway. I'm going to take a bit of a left turn here and talk a little bit about exposition. This show has a lot of it. It has to, because, just about every episode you're explaining a game and you have to set the rules of the game. And some of the games are very complex. And this show does a really good job with its exposition, which is a hard thing for a show to do because on a page, a character has to just run through a whole bunch of lines about what's going to happen in a game. But this show somehow finds ways to make that interesting, both because a lot of times you're meeting new characters when you're seeing a game introduced. So it lets us sort of hear what's happening and also try to assess those characters really quickly. Is this going to be a friend or an enemy? Do I think this is just a hardcore villain, or do I think there's something underneath this character? So this show really gives us a lot of interesting ways to present that exposition. And I even like triple bonus points for the way they introduce the game Osmosis with the nudist character, Kuma, as you can imagine that there's like kind of a bit that's running there for the whole time they're doing the exposition about the game, which is important because it's a game that had a lot of rules to announce. So I think they do a really good job of using those moments to not lose the audience and to kind of, even if you let the rules of the game wash over you until you start seeing it play out, you can still get something from those moments by just seeing how the characters are interacting and the new people that are introduced along the way. Now, a sixth thing I love about this show is that not only is it not afraid to mess with the audience, but it'll do so and say it's doing it. It's not just that it's meta, because there are some shows that talk about being a show. That's not really what this one is doing. This one is just sort of saying like, oh, you think it's this? No, this is happening over here. Like we know you think this is happening, but this is happening. I cannot give more reason why without giving some spoilers away, so I'm not going to. But I will say it's a show that has a little bit of fun with the audience. It's a smart show. It's a show where a lot of the games require a lot of strategic thinking, even. And, you can watch it on that level. You could pause the show and think, how would I beat this game? Um, or you can let it play out and see the choices that the people are making. But either way, the show's going to throw you some curveballs. So no matter how you're approaching this show, you're going to get a chance to be challenged. And this brings me to my final point. And I think it is a primary goal of the show in that it is philosophical. This show, while saying we want to have good, cool characters, we want to have a cute little love story, we want to have some life or death games, we want to have some hard decisions, we want to have some fight scenes, but all of that comes from a lens of philosophy and really of exploring the meaning of life. It's a deep show, masquerading as a not deep show. Again, it's another level that you can watch it on. So, some of the things that are very heavily explored are the idea of like what you lose and what you find, loss versus finding. With that, a very important thematic premise to the show is hope versus despair. And they're basically two sides of the same coin. And it's very clear that those are two sides of the same coin in almost every episode. Hope versus despair. At one point, a character asks, how will you live in a world of despair? To ask a question like that is saying we acknowledge there's despair. How do you choose to cope with that? How do you choose to live in this environment? And the how is actually a question that's deeply explored in different ways by every character that we encounter. Um, Even a line that will come up across the series is life is just a game we play together. And the show throws these one-liners out, but actually the whole show backs it up. It's not just, oh, we're going to say something cool and pithy and hope that you resonate with it. It's like, no, we've been showing you all of this, and we're going to have a character whose stance is X, Y, or Z, and see what resonates for you. I think that this is a really interesting show to watch, whatever your feeling is right now in your life because it explores both hope and despair It can offer a balance to whatever you're feeling in any given moment that I think can be really interesting and healthy. And I've found it sort of comforting in hard times in a very weird way. I'm curious if anybody else has had that experience. I would love to know what people think about this show. Again, part of what I want to do with this is because it doesn't seem like a ton of people watch this show, and I want to see more seasons of this show because I'm being greedy like that. I wanted to put something out there with somebody speaking English and having that some thoughts about the show so that if I go and look for information about Alice in Borderland, a lot of it is in a language that I can't read. So I'm hoping just to keep conversation going in whatever way that I can. And I would love to hear what those who love the show think about it. I'd love to hear if you discovered the show for the first time, maybe because of this video, and what you think about it as much as possible. If we can try to avoid spoilers so that new people discovering the show can enjoy it. If you do have some spoilers in your comment, feel free to just write spoilers in big letters at the top and a couple line breaks so that people can decide if they want to click to read more on your comment. This is such a good show. It is smart. It is fun. It's stressful. It's light. It's funny. It's got everything. And I really hope we're going to get a season 4 because it seems like they've left room for that. It's just a matter of, like with anything, are there enough people watching? So I hope that you enjoy Alice in Borderland. If you liked Squid Game, be sure to check this show out if you haven't seen it yet because it's right up your alley and then some. It's so good. I think better than Squid Game. That's just my 2 cents. For those of you who have watched all of Alice in Borderland and you're looking for something else to pursue, I'm about to embark on Eektober, 31 days of horror movies, and I'm actually re-releasing that series. I released it last year. Some things got messed up with the music. So I have to re-release it this year, but that's good news because we can all watch some horror movies. I've already put out the video about what videos are to come in that series. So if you're into horror movies, come join me for that. And if you still need to go watch Alice in Borderland season 1, 2, or 3, go watch it, enjoy. And I hope this just keeps the conversation going. Go out there, everybody, get inspiration, get donuts, and go watch Alice in Borderland.